Hello, welcome back to Friday Night on Air. The one and only Geonx48, Geonx Plays, or whatever you want to call me, podcast. Let's go. Okay, so pretty much, right, before I start talking about topics or anything, I want to get into it. This podcast is pretty much just me being real, me sharing my thoughts about Hollywood, movies I like, TV shows, video games, or whatever I want to talk about or cover. I'm mainly going to talk about probably, I don't know, shit going on in Hollywood, directors I like, movies I like, those kind of things. But honestly, yeah, so let's get into it. So today I'll be going in, don't mind that, I'll be talking about the newest movies I've watched and what movies I really like and what movies I kind of was not the biggest fans of, and my fucking hot takes. Pretty much, right, I wanted to become a director since last year. And I had fucking watched no movies, none of that, right? I watched nothing. So I set myself a goal to watch a bunch of films, and I've watched I think 20, 25, something like that. And I've got them all written down in a list of my favourite films I've watched. And I'm not gonna lie, some of these are gonna really shock you, because some of your favourite movies might be fucking low for me. But I'll get into them, and I'll talk about the ones I did like and the ones I was not too big of a fan of. Okay, so one of the films I really watched last year and I absolutely loved was Knives Out and Knives Out Glass Onion. Honestly, the way this film kind of dealt with the comedy and the more serious aspects and kind of the detective him fucking discovering shit. Fuck, can't talk. The way he how they did that was fucking amazing. The suspense was awesome. The moments where it was just oh, what's gonna happen? We in the first one, especially Knives Out, right? Where we saw the girl do it, and we were oh, so it's obviously her. Now she has to hide from it, how because of a coin toss and stuff, the genre completely changes. However, then we find out later on that it might have been her that did it, but at the end of the day, it was kind of all planned out, and that was that was kind of shocking if I'm honest, because it was one of those things where you kind of subverted the expectations of the audience, and I fucking loved that. And with Glass Onion, even Glass Onion was so funny because literally in the first scene where that guy dies or whatever, I think his name is Duke. It's been a while since I've watched it, but since that scene where he died or whatever, you literally saw Miles passing the glass, and if you paid attention, you would have noticed that, which I really liked about these movies, because every kind of detail counts and it always comes back at the end, you know. So literally, and how they were just making fun of Miles for being fucking stupid. I loved it. It was a great movie, honestly. Yeah, and both are very good, but very different. And I'm excited to see what they do next with the series. And yeah, hopefully, they just kind of stay the way it is. Also, and on an unrelated note, from a non-filmmaking aspect, the way, right, the actors played their characters was fucking superb. The main guy that plays yeah, I forgot his name if I'm honest. I know I'm supposed to be a filmmaker and a director, I should know all these details. I should have probably written a script, but this is me being... Yeah, listen, right? Oh, Daniel Craig, that's it. It took me a while to think of his name. Daniel Craig plays this character so different to James Bond and all that. And with Glass Onion, the characters were fucking... they were so stupid and I loved it. How you could tell stuff about the characters because of how they wear their COVID masks, or how they treat the pandemic and all that. It was honestly very crazy, and I really liked that. So yeah, another film I really liked, very different to Knives Out and Glass Onion, All Quiet on the Western Front. Fucking hell, this movie killed me. Not literally, but this movie honestly made me kind of think about life, made me have PTSD or whatever. When I say have PTSD, I mean not literal PTSD, but you get what I mean. The movie was fucking ridiculous, and yeah, no, you never think about the German side of the war. You was for me, because I'm British, I always get taught the British side and how the British Empire was amazing, and we were awesome, and how we conquered places, and we were very authoritarian. But to see it from the German side, and to see the difference between how these soldiers started off patriotic, and how the more the war went on, the more they wanted to be over, they wanted to fucking die. It was so dark, and I really liked that. And like the soundtrack and like the visuals. Oh, like to do with the visuals, how the movie started of like, you know, like fucking nature, and then like the soundtrack starts with that like boo, like, you know what, like if you watch the movie, you know what I mean, and like how it very much contrasts that. Honestly, like, it was fucking amazing. Like, it really showed how like war is kind of like, in my opinion, my takeaway from that like opening scene was how it's not a very natural thing. Like, us humans, we were like, you know, we've always tried to kill each other or whatever. But like you know, the inventions and the revelations and all that World War Two, World War One, and World War Two started, really fucked all of us over, and it was like very not natural. And then if you watched Oppenheimer, like the invention of the nuclear bomb as well was also like another bit that was very kind of unnatural and stuff. And how, like, you know, even though we probably were meant to kill each other or whatever, like, it's just not like, it's not normal to like fucking make tanks and like all these different things. And that's why like you know, when you see like you know, the nature and stuff, and then you hear the soundtrack, then we see a soldier running and then he dying, and then like his uniform being like given to someone else and his name badge being ripped off. Like all of us act like it's such a normal thing, but like when it comes to nature, all of this is fucking crazy. So honestly, this movie absolutely shocks me. It shocked me, and yeah, the ending was so dark and like, oh my lord. Let's talk about something a bit more upbeat, eh? One film that, like, from a filmmaking perspective is very interesting was The Social Network. The reason this film, in my opinion, was so like kind of interesting was because it was pretty much just like a conversation, which, yeah, like it was like, you know, people just recalling the events and then us being told what happened. And like, it was only the invention of Facebook, but the stakes felt so drastic and massive, and like, you really cared for the characters and what they were going through, and like all of that, because of like, honestly, it was an interview, right? It was like, it was two fucking court sessions or whatever, and like, just like for them to be able to make that so gripping and so engaging, and for us to care about the characters so much, it's crazy. Because you'd think you'd care so much about the like, you know, fucking Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, because he was our protagonist. But then like, as the film went on, it kind of subverted that, and we cared more about Eduardo and like how like he got fucked over. And it was kind of like, even though Mark Zuckerberg was selfish, it was kind of like him going down like a bad path, and like kind of like, you know, hanging out with like the CEO of Napster, for his name, like how he was kind of like fucking, he was tainted more than he was, and how his ego got more inflated than it ever did. And like the way, like, I feel like the movie really was able to like convey that he was like selfish and egotistical was by starting off with like him having an argument and him being uninterested in the conversation, like fucking dismissing her feelings, which I think is a great way to start the movie, because that kind of theme of him being selfish and egotistical and dismissing people's feelings continues throughout the whole film. It was a very, very good movie. Would recommend. I'm not going to give ratings, but it was a very good movie. This next film. What can I say about this next film that's not been said a million times? We don't talk about it at the end of the day. Honestly, Fight Club. I'm gonna be frank with you. I watched half of Fight Club and then I was like, oh, I'm a bit bored. I'll come back to another day or whatever. I then came back, and then the twist about how, like, you know, how fucking Tyler Durden was the narrator, and how they were the same person, and how he had, you know, personality disorder or whatever. Like, that fucking crazy. Like, that movie has taught so much. And like, I feel like a lot of people misunderstand what the movie's actually about. It's more like, it's a warning about what masculinity can do. Because at the end of the day, they cause so much, like, they do fucking terrorist attacks because they feel like it's righteous or whatever. And like how it's like the right thing to do to bring down the banks over, not without taking into account like the amount of people that's gonna be fucking affected by it. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people is like, oh my god, he's so me. When no, that's not what you kind of want. You don't want to be like Tyler Durden or the narrator, because they're very fucked up people. And it's crazy when you like go down the rabbit hole of Fight Club, because there's also conspiracy theories. Oh my god, I need to really write down names before I start talking about stuff. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to get into that because I don't remember her name, but like his like girlfriend love interest. So there's also a theory that she's also just not real, and that who like it's another personality of his, or whatever, which is fucking crazy to think about. Because like the whole time we're watching, like you could say the narrator's jealousy of Tyler Durden and his success and all that, and then when we find out that like they're actually the same person, and that like Tyler Durden's all the like character traits he wants to be, and he wants to live up to, and he wants to stop living this like kind of like boring minimal life, and that he should like care about more about these things, and that jealousy and resentment is kind of like it kind of makes sense when it's revealed that like he wants to be him, and that's why Tyler Durden had to step up, and that's why like he created that like persona and that personality, so he could like do the things he never thought he could, because you know he's a bit of a pussy. Also, another old film which is great, that's not Fight Club, but it's also kind of like it has also a lot of philosophical like things behind it and a lot of real definitions. The Truman Show. What can I say about Truman Show that's also not been said? It's like it's a take on like modern day reality. Like a lot of people have like got definitions of like, oh, the Truman Show, like even though it's like based in this like kind of superficial like world that was created for Truman, a lot of people like convey it to our like real life society, how like there's product placement all around, like how like you know like how we think and how we feel is manipulated by the media, and that's what the Truman Show like a lot of people think is like deep down about, because like you know Truman is like you know like he's told to like who to date, like who to like who to hang out with, like what is right and what is wrong, and like his feelings are constantly dismissed, and that like you know like he's in a fucking argument. And like the woman's like, have you heard of our new cocoa beans? Which I think is a bit crazy, you know? It's just one of those things where it's like, a lot of people like have kind of made it very hyperbolic, and they kind of connected it to our real world, about like how the media and how the government treat us. Like, I understand where they're coming from. And like, yeah, it's a good point, but my kind of main takeaway from the Truman Show is kind of like, you kind of have to be your own person, you have to be independent, and that you have to kind of like, even though like you might feel trapped or whatever, you have to kind of just get through it, and like you kind of have to just fight your way out, kind of literally. So like, yeah, I get where people are coming from with the Truman Show or whatever, but I never really thought about it in like kind of that sense, but it is a good point, you know, very good point. Honestly, like one of the things I really like about like watching movies, or like ever since I watched them, is that like because of it I know kind of what films I want to make. Like it's like, you know, being a chef and never having tried a meal, you know, you won't know what flavours you like and what flavours you don't like. And I feel like watching movies has done that for me. And if you're an aspiring filmmaker or director, honestly, just go watch more films and you will have a fucking whirlwind of a time. Oh, the next film, I've actually got two films I'm going to probably talk about together, because I think they're kind of similar. And like they kind of like I have similar points about both. So it's a Dead Poets Society, right? Dead Poets Society, right? Yeah, and The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Those two films, I feel like they're very kind of similar in their messaging, kind of. You're gonna hear me out, right? Dead Poets Society is kind of like, you know, about being your own person, like, you know, like live your life while you still can, like, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, the teacher, whatever. And then with like The Perks of Being a Wallflower, it's kind of that as well. Like you have to live your life, and the people around you kind of make up what your life is about. And like, of course, you know, it's like that's very brief, because with The Perks of Being a Wallflower, there's like all of his like previous trauma and all that, and like his friends were kind of the reason he kind of seeked to get help in his family that got him through that. Well, unfortunately, with Dead Poets Society, it's kind of the other way around, where the guy's family, right, was kind of restricting him, while his friends were the ones kind of encouraging him to go on. Like I just thought they're both very kind of like good medium production movies that haven't got a crazy budget, and it's no fucking CGI fights or anything, and it's just kind of real, and it's kind of human, and I really liked that. Another film kind of on that note is Good Will Hunting. Like Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society and Good Will Hunting, he's pretty much the same person, kind of plays the same character in every movie, and I think that's very funny. But honestly, Good Will Hunting is a very good therapeutic movie, because once again it's about a guy getting help, and it's about him kind of overcoming his like trauma and him realizing that he's enough, and then at the end where he like gives up the possibility of an amazing career just for a girl. It's very sweet and I really like it. I'm probably going to talk about one more film and then probably wrap this up, because I feel like I've been kind of waffling, but that's kind of the point about our podcast, I guess. Okay, the next film, the final film I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have to choose. 1 second. Okay, I'm actually going to talk about a couple films from the same director, Quentin Tarantino. I love Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastards, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I know you can say, where's Pulp Fiction? I never finished Pulp Fiction. I'm going to watch it, I swear. Honestly, I love how Quentin Tarantino mixes comedy and like these serious elements. Like the whole thing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood of like, you know, like everything with fucking Sharon Tate, and like how like he kind of recreated that, and then how we saw the like these other two characters kind of change it. The fucking coldest get like a fucking shot and like burnt and all that. It's fucking crazy. And then with like Inglourious Bastards, like how it's like about slavery, but then like when the good guys kind of get revenge, like he shoots them and then they go fucking flying. Like Quentin Tarantino absolutely loves like fucking, you can say revenge porn. It's so fucking funny. Like honestly, I like with Inglourious Bastards as well. Like it's a great movie that like the stakes are very real, because like you know everything that happened with World War II and Nazis and all the Jews and stuff. But literally, like, you know, everything that happened with them is fucking ridiculous. And, like, the stakes were very real when they got captured. You're like, oh, shit, is that plan going to work? And if they're not, they're going to get fucking executed. Or maybe even worse, sent to, like, a gas chamber or anything. Which is the craziest thing, is, like, how Quentin Tarantino can take these real-life events and kind of, like tell, like, a compelling story while still having these, like, funny elements, whatever. And I absolutely love how he directs it, because they're like, at the end of the day, like, not a lot of crazy thing happens. Like, you know, like, there's no fucking, like, Transformers or no Avengers, none of that. It's just, once again, it's very human-based. Like, even if everything is fucking, like, crazy, or, like, everything that, like, the shit at the end where, like, the people go flying or, like, people get burned, at the end of the day, it feels justified in the world, and I feel like he writes people. He doesn't write characters, he writes people. Like, he understands what these people would feel in these exact situations, and then he writes a compelling story around that. And it's something I always try to commend, because, like, at the end of the day, like, a good story is nothing without relatable and, you know, heartfelt characters. So I feel like Quentin Tarantino does that very well. Also, his love of feet's a bit weird, though. Anyway, this has been the Friday Night Thoughts Podcast. Friday night on air. Not upon a Friday Night Live. Saturday Night Live, I swear. I say it's been lovely talking to you guys. And also, podcasts every Friday, hopefully. So, this has been Cheoks. Boy!